What's up? Welcome to the second installment of Bringing IT Home. I am your host, Brandy. On the first episode, I talked about some of the goals I have for this series. If you didn't watch it, feel free to stop this one now, go back and watch it. Not because there's anything extremely pertinent in it that we're going to discuss today, except the context, some background history, and of course the goals, but also because views are cool. Views make me happy, so feel free to go back, view it, share it for other people to view. But I wanted to focus in on one of the goals today, which is to help you relate to the youth in your life. I don't know about you, but I know sometimes talking to my sons can be like talking to a time traveler from the future. The things that they say, the words that they use, and the technology that they bring up sometimes can kind of go over my head. I thank God for Google. But today I wanted to talk, or rather bring attention to something that we all know, use, and love, us and the youth in our life. That is apps. Now, what is an app? App is just short for application, which is really just a package of software that you install on your device to do a thing. And that's pretty much like the CD-ROMs and floppy disks of the past. Yes, I am dating myself. But instead of having to insert it into the device, today you can pretty much just download software, download the app straight from the interweb, and install it. Did you know that Microsoft Word and Google Chrome are apps? I didn't. Thank God for Google. But apps are everywhere, literally on a multitude of devices and platforms, from our mobile phones, where we're probably most familiar with an app, but also on our desktops, our laptops, our gaming systems, our televisions even, and e-readers. So apps do everything. There's all kinds of categories if you've ever gone to the App Store, from game apps like Angry Birds to business apps like Keynote, which is software that helps you create presentations. There's health and fitness apps, productivity apps like Google Calendar, which organizes my whole entire life, social media apps like Twitter and Glide, which is a video messaging software, educational apps, and so many more. Apps are usually pretty simple to use, and they're task focused. So like Microsoft Word is focused on word processing, and if you want to email the document, then you'll use Gmail on Chrome, which is another app. Do you ever wonder like who makes apps? Well, it's not just developers. Apps are actually created by a team of people, usually including developers who write apps, write the code like I do, to designers who create the layout and the flow of the app, the aesthetic, I shall say, quality assurance engineers that test and test and test the apps to ensure that it's working properly before we release it to the store and while it's released to the store. Project managers who really help keep the team focused, organized, motivated, business people who handle all the legal stuff, and most importantly, users like you. What you do when you give feedback is help us figure out how to make our apps better. Getting apps. Now, you might wonder why I am including this section, but I will say this is dedicated to my mother. I absolutely love her. So if you understand how to get an app, you can tune me out for 2 seconds. But if you aren't sure or have ever wondered, how do you get an app on your device? Well, it really kind of depends on the device, but you can get it from the store on the device, usually Google Play Store if you're on an Android phone, the App Store if you're on an iPhone. The gaming systems usually have an app store themselves. Amazon has a store. And it's pretty much like having a package delivered to your house. It's a multi-step process. So first, the app has to be delivered and or downloaded. Once that happens, it can be installed, which is kind of like opening a package, and then it can be used, which is like, playing with whatever you had delivered from Amazon recently. Be very careful though installing apps from places you're not really familiar with or licensed stores, because sometimes they can have viruses. We will be covering internet safety in another episode. If you've ever got an app that you decide you didn't like, they're pretty easy to uninstall even. So most apps on your smartphone, you can just long press them. You'll get a pop-up that'll ask you if you want to remove the app. And you can do so that way on your desktop or laptops. If you right click on most apps, you'll get an option menu asking the same thing if you want to remove or uninstall it. Pretty much one click on the device and one click off the device, which makes it really simple. And if you've ever accidentally deleted something, I know I've done that before. What's really cool is most app stores keep a record of things that you've installed previously and paid for, and make it even simpler to find those apps again and put them back on your device. So applications everywhere, right? And sometimes you may wonder why certain apps in the store aren't compatible with your device. You've ever seen that little note? That's because apps depend not just on the type of device, but also on your device's operating system. If you don't know what your device's operating system is, it's pretty easy to find out if you just go to the About This device section. For Mac users, it's the Apple About This. On a Windows, you could look in the system information. On your phone, inside of the system tools, there's an About This. It'll give you the device's current operating system. Usually you can find out if there are updates to that operating system in that same view, but also give you some information about storage, which is really important if you're downloading and using apps. You want to be aware of how much storage you've currently used and how much you have available. Sometimes that might mean you need to delete an app for a little while. Most applications are made to run on a variety of devices and operating systems. Us as the development team, we want to make sure we can have as many users use our software as possible, but there's usually limitations to that. And sometimes you'll notice that an app won't work the exact same way on, let's say, your smartphone as it does on your, Xbox or PlayStation or your computer even. That's because they're designed slightly different to support that device and operating system. One of the things I love about my job is that I get to be really creative. And most people don't think about software development like that, but it's kind of like writing poetry or stories, but with code and logic. And I think it's really cool and really enjoyable. So I want to share some of that with you with this particular creative exercise. With a youth or a group of youth, I want you to think of an app that could make your life easier or maybe a little more enjoyable, such as arranging carpools or finding time to meditate, maybe staying up on the hottest games or creating humorous memes about your day. Yes, some of these apps already exist. That's not the point. Don't worry about that. I want you to brainstorm about this app. Like, what would you call it? Who would use it? Like, who would be the users for your app? Like, what platforms would you put it on? Devices. So, like, should it be on your phone? Should it be on a computer? Should it be on a TV? Maybe think about why a little bit. Talk about that. Why do you think it would be better on a phone than on a computer? Think of some features that you want to add. Maybe immediately, as soon as you release it, because that's the thing that makes the app cool. And maybe some features that you'd add later to keep it cool. And most importantly, keep in mind as going through this exercise that one day someone sat down and was like, I want to type words and keep it really cool and easy to process them. And so was born Microsoft Word. Or I want a internet browser that you can put add-ons on and does all other kinds of cool things. And so we have Google Chrome. Like, keep in mind that these were created by people, and you are people. And so it's not above your ability to actually do something like that. So creating apps is definitely doable. So talk a lot about that. Okay, so now you're going to be an app developer. For this activity, you're going to need a piece of paper, some writing utensil, and some engineering spirit. Now, keep in mind that writing software is a lot of thinking about what to do when something happens. Like, if a user clicks on a button, it should do something. For this activity, what you're going to do is, on your paper, draw a button. Just rectangle that says button. Then take another piece of paper and write a direction for what will happen when the button is pressed, like this. When tapped, giggle. Now, hand the directions over to your user and have them press the button. Upon press, they should follow the direction. In this case, when pressed, they'll giggle. Then it's their turn to write another direction for the button. Maybe when tapped, stand up. So now you should have, when you press the button, giggle, and then stand. Go back and forth, adding functionality or directions and increasing humor to your button. And if you want to increase the difficulty, you can even add conditionals, such as, if the tapper didn't giggle and stand, they must sing the ABCs. This is a really fun way to think about the logic or directions of the things we use every day, such as buttons, because really behind the press of a button are just some directions that developers like me wrote, so it would do something.